Do you like Pepperidge Farm?
I do.
Seamus, do you know what Pepperidge Farm is?
No, I don't.
Do you know they're the company that puts out food products, and they're probably most famous for the goldfish crackers. Have you heard of those?
Nope.
Okay, well, they're very
Ooh,
popular in America.
Milano cookies, man.
Yep, and they also do cookies. Their probably most famous cookie is the Milano. Um, I personally like Brussels cookies a little bit more.
Oh yeah, those are good too.
They're also good. But let me tell you, Morgana, I figured it out. The Verona cookies are the best Pepperidge Farm cookies.
Are they?
They are. They're the ones that it's a circular butter cookie, and in the center of it, you have like a disc of jam.
Oh yeah.
And so they have a couple different flavors. They got like cherry, strawberry, apricot, raspberry. So apparently, my mom, when she would go back to Japan from the States, she would buy a bunch of Verona cookies to give to like relatives when she was in Japan. I didn't know this until like after my mom passed away. My aunt was visiting, and she was telling me, "Oh, your mom used to bring over these cookies. Can we go find them?" So we head over to the Wegmans supermarket. God, I miss Wegmans.
I went to Wegmans today.
I'm so jealous. I miss Wegmans so much. And anyway, we bought a couple different types of Pepperidge Farm cookies because she kind of recognized the ones with the jam in the center. And you know what? This week, on a whim, this past weekend, I bought a bag of apricot raspberry Verona cookies. Morgana, I've gone through 4 bags this
Oh my
week.
God.
They're so good.
That's so funny. We have a large amount of cookies in our household right now. We're not like huge like Valentine's celebrating people. Like I love Valentine's Day, but it's not like we like go above and beyond. But somehow in the last week, so we went to Trader Joe's and bought something very similar. They have these shortbread heart sandwich cookies. So they're shortbread cookies, but in the center is this like raspberry jam, and the cookies themselves are like half an inch thick each. So there's this like inch high cookie full of jam, and they're really, really good. So my husband bought these, and then he had also bought some Girl Scout cookies because there had been Girl Scouts outside, and so we got Thin Mints, and then he also like baked cookies with Severina last week because she was nuts, and sometimes the only thing to do is like do a project, like get her focused. So we had so many cookies this week. I mean, it's good, but I don't know if I've had the Veronas. I'm a big fan of the Milanos. My husband always buys the like all chocolate Milanos, like the dark chocolate ones, and I'm like, my dude, the mint and chocolate ones are clearly the best ones.
I like the orange chocolate
Those are good too,
Milanos.
but no, it's all about the mint, man.
The mint is very good.
But I'm a fan of mint, like the Thin Mints, Girl Scout cookies. I don't like York peppermint patties. I don't like that kind of mint and chocolate.
It's too much mint.
Yeah.
York peppermint patty.
Yeah, and the texture is not my favorite either. It's like a weird, yeah. Yep, I'm glad you understand.
Absolutely. Seamus, I know you're new to living in the United States. Do yourself a favor when you go to the supermarket, look at the cookie aisle, look for Pepperidge Farm Verona cookies. And you can tell me what you think. It's just that they're so buttery and they're not that sweet. It's like the perfect level for an adult. Kids probably don't like it that much. Anyway, welcome to Manga Machinations. I feel slightly bad because
cookie combinations.
Yeah, cookie corner with Manga Machinations. Matt Hosh did us the favor of sharing us on social media, and here we are talking about cookies. But I can't get. I have a bag of Verona sitting next to me, and it's taking all my willpower not to stuff my face while we podcast. But yes, now that I'm done talking about cookies, I would like to read an email we got. This is an email from a new listener. I'm sorry, not a new listener. It's a new email it's a first time email from a listener.
Long time, first time. What they call it in the biz.
Long time, first time. Okay, good. We are streaming our recording on youtube.com/MangaMacTV, and we just got a chat message from Matt Hosh saying it's okay. I'm pulling my lasagna out of the oven. We will get to Not All Girls Are Stupid, our main segment. Just a moment. Back to this email. This email is titled "The Manga Mac Bump is Real." This is sent to us from Ross. This is kind of long, so just bear with me. Hi, Manga Mac. I don't know how you do it, but the Manga Mac bump is real. A few days after releasing your Punisher episode where you reviewed Born by Garth Ennis, Marvel announced that Garth Ennis will be writing a sequel of sorts to Born called Get Fury, which will be released later this year. I love your podcast and have been listening for years. Your Punisher episode inspired me to write in. I am a longtime fan of Western comics and have some answers to your questions and recommendations for you and your listeners. Thank you, Seamus, for emphasizing the diversity of Western comics, from corporate American superhero comics to indie American, South American, and European comics. Before listening to your podcast, I had not read much manga outside of the works of Kentaro Miura, Naoki Urasawa, and Junji Ito. Your love of manga is contagious, and I have been reading a much wider range of titles and styles of manga since I found your podcast. I would especially like to thank Dagazu for his recommendation of Blackguard by Ro Hanada. This ended up being one of my favorite comics of the past few years in any genre from any country. To answer some of your questions brought up on your Punisher episode, Garth Ennis' run on Punisher under the Marvel Knights imprint was very much a dark comedy in the same vein as Preacher. The 4-issue miniseries Born, reprinted in trade paperback as The Punisher Born, was his first work on the Punisher under the Marvel Max imprint and had a much more serious tone. The Born miniseries was released in the summer of 2003 with the ongoing Punisher Max series beginning in January of the following year. Derek Robertson also worked with Garth Ennis on issues 15 through 17 of the Marvel Knights Punisher series, which were collected into Punisher Business as Usual trade paperback. He also collaborated with Garth Ennis on the Fury miniseries for Marvel Max. If you're interested in reading more comics drawn by Richard Corbin, I highly recommend his Hellboy work, written by Mike Mignola. Hellboy, the Crooked Man, is my favorite for its oppressively creepy atmosphere. For the Manga Mac host especially, I recommend the Hellboy in Mexico trade paperback, which collects 2 Richard Corbin illustrated comics featuring Hellboy teaming up with Mexican wrestlers to fight vampires. Yes, you read that right. If you would like to read some comics drawn by Frank Quitely, All-Star Superman, written by Grant Morrison, is the pinnacle of superhero comics in my opinion. I believe Frank Quitely is the greatest visual storyteller in the history of comics. His work with Grant Morrison on All-Star Superman, Batman and Robin, and We Three, as well as his work on The Authority and Jupiter's Legacy with Mark Millar, are all innovative and impressive in terms of pacing and panel layout. Your episode on Berserk is next in my queue. I have been following Berserk for the past 20 years, and I'm looking forward to your perspective and opinions on the Conviction arc. Thank you for everything you do, and keep up the great work. I'll be here listening. Ross from Massachusetts.
Wow, high praise.
Love it.
Thank you so much,
Also,
Ross.
Hi, Massachusetts. You're in my neck of the woods.
Ross wrote that he fell in love with Blackguard. But when I talked about Blackguard, I spoiled the entire thing in a fun quiz. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
But he still got it and still said he loved it.
Maybe that's because like the whole spoilers things is a lot of shit.
I guess so. Maybe it was the joke about the Nickelback song that happens in that manga. But yeah, thank you again so much, Ross. What a lovely email.
Yeah. When I read that, I was like, this is why we do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
It,
lots of.
it's nice
Go ahead.
it's just nice when you hear from like a long time listener like that, because a lot of times, I mean, we see the numbers, so obviously we know people listen to us, but a lot of times they're kind of invisible. So when they reach out like that, it's actually really awesome.
All it took was us to read some comics by Garth
Yeah,
Ennis.
just shake up the bush a little bit, see what falls down, right?
I am definitely interested in reading Hellboy with y'all. I have read the first volume of Hellboy, and that's it. But I've seen the movies. Love Mike Mignola's art. I've also, Richard Corbin is a very good artist, so I would love to read some of that stuff. Good suggestion.
We'll put it on the docket. And yeah, these other suggestions are great, Ross. Thank you so much for your feedback. It really is a great feeling hearing from a listener, like Darfox said. Makes you feel all warm and fuzzy. I hope Ross writes back in with his thoughts on our Berserk episode last week. We would love to get another email from you, Ross. Thank you again. And don't forget, you can send those emails over to mangamachinations@gmail.com, and we will get to reading them. Okay, email is done. Let's move along to some What You Been Reading. This is rare, but I don't have anything this week.
Wow.
I was busy, so I just read my regular stuff, which was still a lot, but nothing new or interesting that stands out.
Is the world ending?
No, I'm still reading like all the magazines and all like the stuff on the web sites from Shogaku, Manga Plus, Pocket Magazine Plus, Comic Days. I should probably think about talking about some of those a little bit more, because I usually just read them and I don't talk about them too much. But I usually I want to wait until I found something that's kind of meaty, something of substance to talk about. But yeah, Morgana, you have anything this week?
I do. I'll just want to briefly mention. I can't remember if I've mentioned this on the podcast before. I got a bunch of books from work yesterday, and one of them is a series called Stray Cat and Wolf. It's a shoujo series. And we so this is by Mitsubashi Miyuki, and she does Cheeky Brat, which is another shoujo manga we publish. Love Cheeky Brat. It's a lot of fun high school shoujo romance manga. Stray Cat and Wolf is also by her, and it is about a teenage girl who moves to Tokyo for school, kind of is on her own, and loses her housing, and meets this older guy who's like a rock star, or he's in a band anyway, and ends up like kind of shacking up with him, and it is a romance, and there is an age gap and all of that, but it is really, really good. I read it last night. I read the second volume. If you want something that like makes the high school girl in you go squee, I feel like this is the one.
You hear that, Darfox?
Yeah.
I hear that.
This one makes my boss's shoujo heart go doki doki. He really loves Stray Cat and Wolf. He was like, this is really sexy, and I'm like, I know, isn't it good? So I recommend it if you want shoujo that's maybe a little bit more, I don't know, edgy might be the word. Still has, a lot of the trappings of shoujo manga, but is definitely more, it's a little spicier. Yes, again, there's an age gap. You just kind of, there are some things in shoujo manga you just kind of have to like put on blinders and just forge straight ahead.
Morgana, the girl is in high school. What is the age of the guy?
He's 22.
That's fine.
Yeah, he's not that much older, and I think she's like 17 or 18. Like, she's not that much younger than him.
If
no,
he said he was in his 30s, I would have turned an eye.
He's 22. But yeah, it's It's spicy. It's still like totally appropriate for like teenagers, but it's like wow. So it's fun. I really like it a lot. The artwork is great. So that's what I read last night. And that's kind of the only other manga I think I read this week. It seems to somehow go really well with the Not All Girls Are Stupid, which we also read, which is kind of the theme of my week is some like girls and their weird relationships.
Yep, we'll talk about that in our main segment. Very cool. I wonder if one of our listeners, Vicky Dalton, has read this. Sounds like something she might enjoy.
Yeah, I think technically volume 2 isn't out until Tuesday. I just got it. I can get my books from work early. But the first one's been out I think for a few months now, and I definitely recommend it.
Very nice. Okay, let's turn to Seamus. Seamus, you read anything this week besides more water margin? Is he tweeting about that?
No.
Okay. Dar, it's up to you.
It's up to me.
It's up to you.
Only the Avatar can rescue this what you've been
Curious.
reading section.
Oh, we're doing this. Yeah, that's right. We're doing this now.
Everything changed when Dagasu didn't read 100 sad books. So we've mentioned on and off for the last month or so that I was watching Avatar with a couple of my online friends, Melly, Cross, and Kenzo. And it's sort of in preparation for the Netflix TV show that's coming out soon, very soon now.
It seems like you should not have bothered based on what I've heard about that show.
Okay, there's a lot of headlines about the show that make the show seem really, really bad. Let me rephrase that. There's a lot of headlines derived from things that the showrunners have said that seem like not maybe well intentioned at best, but foolish ideas. Like changes to the characters and changes to some of the character motivations. One example is they made Aang less irresponsible at the start, and he's more interested in fighting the Fire Nation, which is kind of a difference from the cartoon. In the cartoon, he was kind of like an immature kid who he didn't want the responsibility, and that's kind of a core part of his character is that he ran away in the beginning, and then because he was gone for 100 years, and that imbalance in nature or whatever, the Fire Nation was able to rise and take over and whatever. So there's been a couple things like that to release. I am staying cautiously optimistic, as with all Netflix things. I'm not one of the people who just likes to meme on Netflix and assume everything they're gonna do is bad.
How responsible of you.
Yeah. I'll watch it unless it's like really bad. I'll stop watching it, but I'll watch it, and I'm curious to see how like it works in adaptation. We've already had an adaptation of Avatar, and it was like pretty bad with the M. Night Shyamalan film. So I'm curious.
Pretty bad is a really kind way of saying what that film was.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I don't think I stayed sober because I don't think I could handle it. I watched
Dar
it
is a
years ago.
Shyamalan apologist, though.
I am a Shyamalan apologist, but even I don't defend that one. I would defend every one of his other movies, except for that one.
We went through a phase where we watched a few like adaptation movies, and I think we watched Dragon Ball Evolution around the same time.
Oof.
I was like, what are we doing to ourselves? But I was like 22, so mistakes were made.
Goku's just a teen who's in love with Chi-Chi.
Hey, you know about Ki? There was a scene in that movie where he like used Ki blast to open up a bunch of lockers, and Chi-Chi turns up and like, hey, you know about Ki? It's just like the weirdest thing. Yeah, so anyways, I finally finished Avatar, and I'm on to Korra. I finished season 1, 2, and 3, so I just need one more season of Korra, and then I'm just caught up to all the like cartoon Avatar stuff that exists. So I'll talk a little about Korra, but I mostly just want to talk about Avatar because now I'm done with it. Avatar is such a huge part of a certain generation's kind of childhood. Um, Kind of like younger millennial, um, older Zoomer kind of cross section. It's you're hard pressed to talk to like 25-year-olds and people of that range that aren't like massive Avatar fans. And I know this because I work with a lot of like 25-year-old ish people. And I've fallen into various accidental conversations about Avatar at work and stuff like that. Because it turns out that like I was just like really much like an Avatar noob compared to everybody.
Yeah, I never watched the original Avatar until I think I had already graduated from college. Yeah, or I was in my like last year of college. I was like in my 20s.
Yeah, and I watched some Avatar like on TV here and there, and it was one of the shows that I knew I kind of liked, but I didn't watch a lot of Nickelodeon shows, so I never really kept up with it. Which is part of the reason why we did this whole like watch thing, so just watch from the beginning to the end, just to get like the whole character arc and stuff. And yeah, I think overall that's a pretty special show. I think overall, just from the creativity and the characters, the designs. There was a lot of really uniques. I mean, it borrows so much from um, like mythology and like a lot of designs from like Chinese history and Japanese history. A lot of Asian stuff in the show, obviously, which is kind of one of the criticisms you can make of it because um, you could see it as like weird, like cultural tourism and appropriation in some ways. Um,
Yeah, but actually, I think one of the things that's really interesting about it is that they kind of made this world that is peopled by almost exclusively like cultures based on Asian cultures.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
China, Japan definitely, but also like yeah, like it's just like watching it is like, oh, these are all people of color. Like native, I would say like native what's the word, Alaskan,
Yeah, yeah,
like
like
those part
Indigenous.
Siberian indigenous, yeah, like
Inuit, yeah.
yeah, so yeah, I mean, yes, it could be seen that way, but I really feel like it is also for the time period, it's something very different than was on TV and in cartoons for kids at the time.
And I also think just like the portrayal of these kid characters, um, it's a really good balance of their main characters in this kind of action adventure show, so they're doing very heroic things, and there isn't a lot of like it's not like it's Evangelion where like Shinji is like having an emotional breakdown because he doesn't want to get in the robot, but they are wrestling with the fact that they have these huge burdens on them, and they've got to get from here to A or from A to B before like like this crazy fascist army like catches up with them. Um, and it can be harrowing. It's really funny seeing the original cartoon, which is way more for kids than Korra. Korra's definitely they try to aim for more like a teen, older teen audience, maybe even young adult like audience. But Avatar is definitely for kids, and there is definitely many moments where it's like, oh, here's Sokka slipping on a banana peel and his head falls inside a watermelon. I got watermelon head, and then like it cuts to like the Fire Nation talking about how they're gonna like genocide a whole town or something like that. It's like there is a little bit of like a disconnect there, which is like maybe just inherent because it just has to be there because it's a kids show. Um, but they even like make that work. Like Sokka is a fan favorite for a reason. I think he's kind of like a shitty kid, because he's kind of sexist and he's really negative, and he's at first doesn't seem like a good brother, um but he's like a very good brother, and he's like um has a lot of opportunities to learn and grow, um and it's like one of the best examples I feel of that show. Like Sokka is like a different version of Zuko, essentially, which is like the
Mhm.
famous version of character basically face turning or growing really really far past their origins.
Zuko as a character is what I want for every redemption arc in every piece of media. I love that boy, and I hated him. The first episode he shows up, and I'm like, "Oh, this shitty kid." And I've said this. My husband was like, "He's your favorite." I was like, "Fuck you! What are you talking about?" He's like, "No, trust me." And like, by the end of the first season, I was like, "Fuck you! How did you know?" He's like, "Morgana, I know you." Zuko's so good.
One interesting thing they do with Zuko is that they really make his choice to become a good guy essentially. Um, they try and remove all the circumstances away from it, and they just put it on Zuko has to come he has to grow a conscience and grow a backbone and actually like defect from the Fire Nation and actually have to join the good guys and actively fight against like his homeland. um because there is a part later on in the series where he actually um goes back to the Fire Nation and he's accepted by his father because his whole plot is that his father he was disgraced, and his father sort of disowned him, and the only way for him to gain his honor back is if he captured the Avatar, which is a wild goose chase because at that time the Avatar was like lost for 100 years. He only reappears after he was disgraced and kind of exiled. So his father thinks that he killed the Avatar. He accepts him back in. He's like in his father's like inner circle of like war generals. He literally has everything he's ever wanted. Um, so now he just has to kind of come to terms with, is this actually what I wanted, or did I actually want to like live a peaceful life with my my uncle, which is like who's been more of a father to him than his actual father, who like literally beat his ass,
Iroh,
yes.
love that man.
Yeah, I was a. I mean, I was everybody's favorite. For good reason. He's a pretty good character, and he's one of the best examples of the kitty show dichotomy that I mentioned because his whole character archetype is the kooky old man who kind of seems like a bumbling idiot, but he knows like best of all. He's the wisest of all. He knows what's really going on, and that really fits with the show's tone, where he's like, "Oh, let's just have some tea" or something silly like that, while like Zuko's like freaking the fuck out. But the whole thing he's trying to teach Zuko is patience and kind of like find some inner peace, some inner balance, and to basically find some self worth outside of like this fascist army and his dad's like crazy genocidal plans, who that literally just wants to burn the entire world. Um, so, um, very good. I'm glad I watched it. The show looks kind of ugly. That's like going to be the harshest thing I'm going to say about the show. All the backgrounds are like just very low res, like digital paint. And like there are scenes like like cartoons. They might have to save money here and there, so there are scenes where they like zoom in too close into it, and you can just really see like the digital brushstrokes and stuff like that. And you're like, man, it's like the show didn't have the best budget, but they do use it very well. I mean, the fight scenes are famous, and they use a lot of like accurate like martial arts, and they apply certain martial arts to certain of the bending, which is just like a really fun gimmick. Um, but yeah, like the biggest negative I'll say about it is that like it's just like not a show that stands the test of time. The characters do, the story does, the I think the music does overall. Even though it's in that original Avatar show, it's all like MIDI, it's all like fake. It's not like a real orchestra or anything. They got like a orchestra for Korra. When you start watching Korra, it's like night and day because Korra is really well animated, especially the first season is a super high budget. It just looks super slick. And the music is like really, it's just really bombastic and has like this really good depth to it. Um, and I guess the contrast in that being that like Korra lacks all the comfy aspects that Avatar has. Avatar really feels like a comfy show. even though it does have an overarching plot, it has a plot that um, you might be lost if you skip a few episodes because you'll miss important things that happen. But overall, there's a lot of episodes in the original Avatar show where it's just kind of the characters hanging out. So you kind of have that comfort television of like these are the characters, these are their personalities, and these are their dynamics, and you like you like spending time with them. Korra kind of lacks that because there's so much kind of chaos with the Korra characters. The Korra, who here has seen Korra?
I have.
I have.
Yeah. Okay.
I've seen it.
Okay. So everybody's seen Korra. These are
Who
the.
do you think we are?
Fucking hell.
This is like when I ask about some random like Japanese manga dark.
No. These are like the messiest fucking teenagers ever. Like
Yeah.
they're dating each other and then they're like kissing somebody behind their back in like a kiss of passion. They couldn't help it. It happened in the moment. And then like they break up with him originally and then they got the other one and then they kiss the original one. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? And
Yeah.
this kind of happens a lot in the show. So like the character dynamics are constantly kind of like in this chaotic flux, where I don't know if they were doing it on purpose because they just wanted to kind of trying to emulate I don't know, hormonal teens trying to deal with their feelings or whatever, or if it's just they were like trying to spin the wheel and see what best like relationship they could fall on, because I'm sure at the point of Korra the whole like shippers thing was in full movement, right? At the point of Korra, like people were very very vocal about who they wanted the relationships to be and who they wanted to show up, and I have no idea if they cared at all, but sometimes TV shows care and they pay attention to what the fans say. But sorry, yeah, you gonna say something?
Oh, I was just gonna ask, and you can keep going, but I was gonna ask how you feel about. Did you like Korra as much as the original Avatar? Is my question.
No. I do like it in a different way though.
Mhm.
I appreciate it. It's a far better like action show. And it has um it has, I guess I'll say, like bigger ideas. Whether
Yeah.
it does well with those ideas or not, my feeling is that it doesn't. But people can make the argument that it does. But it deals with like discrimination, systemic kind of discrimination. It deals with it deals with like anarchism, and it kind of leaves it in such a way.
Hold on. It doesn't deal with anarchism. It deals with a fake version of anarchism. It has like it has no conception of like the actual historical background of anarchism. It's not even core. Like it's a general fantasy thing. They're like, oh, anarchists like to kill people. It's like, yeah, but you know where this idea came from? Like, do you know about like the difference of the word and the deed or anything like that? It's like they never do. Mostly because that involves having to bring in communism, the industrial revolution, like class
Right.
relationships. Like they're not going to bring in there.
No. But basically, what the show does is they show that the show at least two world leaders in Korra that are kind of either assholes or dumbasses, or just like people who really shouldn't be leaders, very selfish people. And then they eventually reveal the villains, because the villain was kind of hanging around, but you didn't really know what their motivation was. And then they eventually revealed the villain's motivation, which was like, we gotta kill all of these world leaders. And they make a good point. That's essentially it. That's all the, as in depth they go into like the idea of like these world leaders are like terrible, shitty people, and the world will be better off without them. And like the way the show portrayed them to that point is like they're not exactly wrong in this specific case, but it's still like a show on Nickelodeon, so it doesn't it never really advocates too much on the side of the villains. But the villains in that season were at least are more honest than the other villains in Korra. In season 1 and season 2, they're like very duplicitous. They're always lying, and they had like these like the first guy was Alman, who could like take bending away, and he claimed he wasn't a bender, but he was a bender and that kind of thing. He was kind of a hoax, right? Even though he had like these crazy powers. Whereas at least in season 3, they make the villains pretty much true to whatever they say they want to do. But yeah, like I said, it's 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 brandishing these big ideas. I'm not sure if it's actually doing anything good with them. Um,
Yeah, I felt that I wasn't as interested in the characters too. I think partially because of all the teenage drama that I was like, "Oh my god, you all need to just get over yourselves." I can't. My wife Lin Beifong, however, is in
yes,
Korra.
yes. She's definitely an easy favorite. Even when they finally get into kind of like her family drama, like that stuff is handled pretty well. I feel. Um, I like Bolin. Bolin's kind of like the closest thing to Osaka
Mhm.
the show has. He's like a different flavor of Osaka. And I think he kind of quickly kind of gets separated out of like the love triangle or love like pentagon that was happening. And that kind of makes you like the character more because he's not involved with like the like all the kissing and back and forth like hugging out of people's eyesight and stuff like that.
Oh,
So he's just kind of doing his own goofy thing, becoming a movie star, getting engaged to like Aubrey Plaza, who's like like a psycho ice princess.
yeah.
Um, so like he kind of has a little bit of that fun original Avatar kind of coziness. But yeah, I do like Avatar. Or sorry, I do like Korra. It's just it really just almost feels like a different franchise. It really expands a lot of like the martial arts and like the action scenes, which is really fun, right? That stuff is really cool. It's I think one of the reasons that the show was popular was just because it looked different from a lot of other cartoons because it leaned in on all this martial arts stuff. And season three kind of violent at times. There's a death scene that's like it must have like the death scene that is not shown that well because a character has they have the ability to shoot fire from their mind, and right after they're about to shoot it, their head gets encased in metal, so they basically explode their own face and head. But it's shown in such a like perfunctory way. I can only imagine it was chopped up by the censors, and the showrunners were just trying their best to get the scene through. But like they show the metal encase their head, and then they kind of zoom in to like the main bad guy who's like the lover of this character who's about to die, and it kind of feels like it's gonna cut back to see what happened, but it never happens. So it is interesting to see them kind of like try their best to make this edgier show within the confines of Nickelodeon. I mean, Nickelodeon really fucked Korra over. I don't know all the details, but like, it's pretty common knowledge that at a certain point, Korra started premiering on the internet, and then season four, I think, one I haven't seen yet, was just purely on the. It wasn't even aired on
Yep.
TV. It was just purely on the internet. So like, I think it just feels like the executives really just like after watching enough of Korra, they were just scared of like what did we greenlit? This isn't. We shouldn't be airing this shit, and they just kind of like let it die out.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying about it being for a slightly older audience is true too. Like, it's not really Nickelodeon's demographic in a lot of ways. All my like adult weeboo friends were watching this as it came out,
Yeah.
and enjoying it. So, but yeah, season 4. I mean, I don't know how much you know about what happens in season 4,
I
but
know the ending, and I know the whole Korra Asami like
yeah,
shipping angle that some people find controversial or I don't.
mm,
It's not that explicit in the show, I guess, but they make it obvious in the show. Is what I've heard.
it's fairly explicit at the end, but it definitely is like, I don't know. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, this is such a great thing for, queer rep." And I was like, "Cool, I'm glad it exists," but also like it does kind of feel, from what I remember, it's been a long time since I watched it, but I remember feeling like, "Really, that's it? We're kind of just shoehorn this in here, huh?"
Yeah, like they tacked it on at the end. That's how I felt
Yeah,
too.
yeah, and
Hold on now.
Yeah,
First of all, season 3 ends. Like, I remember watching season 3, I think with Kinzo, and I was like, "Oh, the Korra Sammy next season." Saying it half jokingly because I wasn't actually expecting they'd actually do it.
So season three did end with basically Koro's in a wheelchair because she had like crazy mercury poison. Um, and Asami's like, I am gonna stay with you forever and take care of you if it comes to like you being stuck on here in the wheelchair. Essentially, that was kind of like the vibe. So there is like a deep level of commitment that she shows
Yeah.
to Korra in that scene, and kind of beforehand as well. I think up to the point I've seen, what's been interesting about the Korra Asami relationship is that they really are just kind of friends right now, but their friendship is very very nurturing and very like drama free.
Which
And
is remarkable, all things considered.
yes, yeah, like the boys catch all like the heat with the drama, deservedly so, because it's usually them lying and making mistakes. Um, and from the very beginning, Asami has been like, "Hey, it's kind of weird, but hey, whatever, respect. Let's go beat up these terrorists or whatever." And then like they end up hanging around a lot because all the characters get drawn to different plot points, and I guess maybe because Asami isn't a bender, so she's less versatile. She kind of just is supporting cast for Korra's side of the plot, so they spend a lot of time together, and I think that is maybe enough. The fact that their relationship is kind of pure and like I said, like it's nurturing. Like there's not a lot of toxicity or bad feelings there at all. Which maybe you can't say the same for Mako, which is kind of like the main male interest for Korra.
Mako's a piece of shit. He doesn't deserve his name.
He doesn't deserve his name, yeah.
He doesn't deserve to be in any way related to Zuko and his like, because he's like he's supposed to be the Zuko, right? Like it's just bad. Or is Asami kind of, because she's kind of on the. Anyway, I hate him. Everything about him makes me mad.
Yeah, Mako I think works okay, but only because Bolin is there. They work pretty well as his brother as characters. Mako on his own will be pretty, I feel, disinteresting. But in season 3, they meet like their family because they go to the Earth Kingdom, which is like obviously like China. So they just meet like their super extended family, which is kind of fun. I like that stuff. So yeah, a lot of stuff I like in Korra. I just like it in a different way. I think it's a worse show, pound for pound, than Avatar. But it's not like I think it's worth watching if you're an Avatar fan, at least so far.
Well, you still have to finish it, so we got to come back to this once you finish that season 4.
Is it bad?
It's fine. It's weird. I feel like it gets weird. Again, it's been years and years since I saw it, and I mean, like, I think by the time I had been watching it, like the Korra Asami thing had been like we all knew it was going to happen, so I think I was expecting more before the other shoe dropped, and I was like, really, that's it. But yeah, no, season 4 is fine, but Zuko's not in it, so I don't give a shit. And we haven't talked about May. We have not talked about Zuko's girlfriend, who is perfect in every way also.
So I don't know if this is, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but from what I understand in like the sequel comics, I don't know if how canon this is or if you know about this, but I think they do break up.
I don't think she ends up being Mrs. Zuko, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I just love their really teenage, like, I hate the world kind of relationship.
This sucks. But they're together saying this sucks.
Yeah, I just love them. I love them.
Of course you love her, Morgana. She's a goth.
She's basically Wednesday Addams. I mean, she's just so good. I love her, and I love her buns, and I love everything about her. That's like half the reason I love Zuko is because I love his girlfriend.
All right,
they're so perfect.
Who was your favorite character in the Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Oh, that's a tough question. I feel like it's just really lame to say Iroh just because like
he's so good though.
He's just like so popular. I like Aang a lot. I think Aang is actually like a good character, even though he falls into like a goody two shoe kind of like framework. But I do like the burdens he has, and the kind of the way he kind of exploits or the way the show kind of explores his kind of spiritual side and learning about the Avatar stay and stuff like that. I thought that stuff was really interesting. I thought even in Avatar they didn't handle like all the relationship stuff that well. Like the way he was crushing on Katara, I thought was fine. I don't mind him crushing Katara. That's his name, right? Katara. Am I saying it weird?
Katara.
For some reason, when I'm saying it, it sounds like I'm mispronouncing it. But there were like a couple scenes where like he would kiss her out of nowhere or something like that, and maybe that's something kids do. I don't actually know, but it seemed like missteps at times like that. But I guess those are nitpicks, I guess, or maybe those are just like the best way they saw to just further the story or further this like subplot of romance. But yeah, I might just have to say Aang. I mean, that might be a two boring answers, but
He's a good character, and his growth is, I think, a big. I mean, it's the kind of the point, I think, in a lot of ways of the show. And so I think it's done really, really well. All the characters do a lot of growing. I think that's maybe the strength too of Avatar: The Last Airbender, is that all of the main cast have their own kind of growth that happens, and you get to watch that play out as they get older and assume their various responsibilities.
yeah, and now that I've been running through the characters in my head, like it's totally. Like if somebody tells me Katara is their favorite character, that makes sense. Somebody told me Sokka, that makes sense. Toph especially makes sense. I think Toph is
So
probably
good.
a big fan favorite.
What do you do when someone says Ty Lee is their favorite character?
Is Ty Lee the psycho sister?
Yes.
I
No,
have,
that's Azula.
No, Azula.
Azula. Who's Ty Lee then? Oh,
She's
she the
the
pressure
acrobat.
point. Yeah, okay. I'm whatever.
Exactly.
Who's your favorite Dakazu?
Ty Lee. No.
It's that'd be crazy. It's probably Sokka.
It's a good one.
Yeah,
I think
Sokka.
that's my husband's. What about
Zuko's probably up there as well, and Toph after that.
Seamus? Do you have a favorite?
Whichever Avatar told Aang you need to kill people. Just so getting around it.
That was the
Kyoshi.
yeah,
There you
Avatar Kyoshi.
Yeah, she's pretty good. That's also, can't argue with that.
It was funny because if people haven't seen the scene, Aang is basically talking to the previous avatars because he needs advice on how to handle Fire Lord Zuko, because not Zuko,
Ozai.
Ozai, thank you. Fire Lord Ozai, basically the main villain in the original series, because the only way to stop him, seemingly because he's a evil despot, is to kill him. And he feels there must be another way, and he starts asking them, and they're all kind of giving them kind of like philosophical answers. And then when he talks to Kyoshi, Kyoshi fought this guy who he essentially killed himself because he stamped the floor hard enough that the side of the cliff that he was hanging out on fell, and he fell to his death. So Aang was kind of like using that as like the happenstance as some sort of leverage in their conversation. Was like, well, you actually didn't kill this person. And she's like, no, believe me, even if that wouldn't happen, I would have fucking killed them, because like that guy would have just killed countless people and caused wars and wars. So like that was a just thing to do. That was really funny for this character, who's essentially like a really good character, or like a good guy character. Just unambiguously say that the right thing to do is kill. But obviously, it makes total sense in this context for these characters. It also made sense in Aang's like dilemma, because he's getting conflicting information from different avatars, so he has to basically make up his own mind, essentially, which is part of like his character growth. He has to make his own decision or his own choice on what he's going to do. But yeah, good show.
I think this has convinced me that I need Darfox to watch Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dai.
Why is that?
Because like there's a lot of mirrors for like how the story plays out with the character growth, and
Okay.
that it's still the shonen battle manga of my childhood. And it has a better Sokka. It has the ultimate Sokka.
The ultimate saga.
It does. It does. I haven't brought it up on this podcast because I don't want Seamus to tear to shreds.
Your heart can't take it.
Just talk about it, for when I'm not around.
Yeah, maybe a week when Seamus is out, we'll take a look at it in a triple dip because the manga is available. But anyway, we should wrap up on the Avatar talk. Thank you, Darfox, for helping us get us through our first half.
You're welcome.
All right, let's go ahead and end our what you've been reading, or Darfox's case, what you've been watching. And we'll move right along. Before we get to our main segment, we need to talk about next week. Next week, Morgana, you're out again.
Yep, I got. I'm going to a conference,
Morgana has to job.
which
not
is
fun, talking job.
I mean, it is talking about manga also, so like, it's fun. But
Morgana's
yeah,
getting paid for that. She ain't getting paid for this.
no, I'm not getting paid for this. That's fine.
Only getting paid with friendship here.
This is a passion project.
Yeah, and so we're gonna have a guest next week. Wyatt, one of our listeners, who has been a guest on this podcast, has agreed to join us next week. And after tossing some manga titles my way, which I was like, we should read those when Morgana's here, we have decided to do another left to right. 2 left to rights in 1 month. What are we doing?
Seeing light.
Turning into a totally different podcast.
Seamus is living for this. We're going to take a look at 2 books. First, from Image Comics, we'll be reading Do a Powerbomb by Daniel Warren Johnson. Darfox will finally have to read this book that Wyatt asked him to read like a year ago.
I might be getting kind of sick though. Maybe I'll have to skip that podcast out. Maybe we shall see.
We are also going to read Godzilla: The Half-Century War. I know nothing about this, but it's written and illustrated by James Stokey.
Stokey, I think.
Stokey, okay.
Why
James, have
not
you heard
that?
about this?
Yes, I've read some of his stuff before.
Okay.
I have
I've heard good
read
things about Half-Century War.
I have read the beginning of Do a Powerbomb, and I really like the art in that book. So
Well, we'll see what I see. What I say next week. But yeah, left to right next week with guest Wyatt. So look forward to our conversation on Do a Powerbomb and Godzilla: The Half-Century War. Stay tuned for that. Okay, I need to go use the restroom, so we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I know Matt Hosh has been waiting very patiently in chat, but we will finally get to our main segment where we talk about Not All Girls Are Stupid. Okay, we are back, everybody. It's time for our main segment, a one-shot review on Minami Kyuta's Not All Girls Are Stupid. So the Japanese title of this book is Guzu na onna bakari janai ze, which is in fact Not All Girls Are Stupid. Originally, this came out in 1997 in Japan, put out by publisher Bunkasha. It's published in English from Starfruit Books. First English edition was published in October 2022. Let me give some localization credits here. Translation by Dan Luffy. Retouch and lettering, Brendan Hull. And project manager Matt Hosh of Starfruit Books. A guest and a friend of Manga Machinations. I wonder if Matt is still in the chat or not. He might have left because we talked about Avatar for a long time.
he's knee deep in lasagna right now. So
Yes, probably enjoying his dinner. Well, let me go ahead and read the copy we have for Not All Girls Are Stupid. A 1-volume collection of short stories about sexuality, love, and the human condition. Each colored with Kyuta's unique perspectives. Each copy... Okay, this part I don't need to read. Sorry. Yeah, this is anthology, I guess. Is that what you call it? Like a collection of stories?
Yep.
And let's see. We have read in the past. Did we cover Pop Life? Yeah, we did, right?
Yeah.
I think it might have been the first episode Matt was a guest on. So we are a fan of Minami Kyuta's works. And this is a book that came out a while ago, so we should have covered this earlier, but we just got around to it now. Sorry, Matt. But yeah,
Yes, for timely for reviews.
that's how we do it here. You know, let's go to just like our impressions on the book first. And I'm gonna throw to Seamus. Seamus, what did you think of Not All Girls Are Stupid?
I like this. What were we reading recently?
River's
It
Edge.
was like this. No, something more recent than River's Edge.
Recent than River's Edge.
Mario Kazaki. Will I Be Single Forever?
Ah, yes, that's what I'm thinking of.
We just read that.
Yeah, like a few weeks ago.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Or even River's Edge. It seemed like a thing in the 90s. Screen tone, you got the explicit sex, you got the like relationships that you probably don't want to be in all that long, but you find yourself maybe not getting out of them as quickly as you'd want in retrospect.
Man, I gotta get you guys reading some more Jose of the time period, because I read this and was like, oh yeah, this reminds me, and I'm not saying it's derivative in any way, but I'm saying there's very much like a theme of like Jose manga of the 90s and 2000s. I was thinking of Pink by Kyoko Okazaki when I read this.
This also reminds me of Moyoko Anno.
Moyoko Anno, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's good stuff. And there's more. There is more of this, some of which has been available in English at some point.
Seamus, is that the feel you got from this book?
Yes. I'm just trying to think, was there a particular story? I did like the one story with the two lesbians.
The high school?
Yes.
Yeah, that one was fun.
Just because, I don't know, it seemed unusual. Well, yeah, I don't know, just some raw, like, standard, like, boy girl stuff. Even the other stuff we've read, well, I guess you had a bit of it in River's Edge. Here it's more like, nah, they're in a relationship, they're together, it's going okay.
What about when they kind of bullied that girl, or that was the continuation of that story, right? When
Yes.
when they were like snapshotted. That was kind of interesting to me, because it's obviously kind of like a fucked up thing, but like it wasn't. It didn't linger on it a lot.
It's kind of interesting that those two stories felt like the one that it could have been like more of a series. Could have read more about those two. Because a lot of the other stories here in this collection, they seem like they're just one-offs, right? Here's a situation mostly about a girl with their partner. And usually it doesn't turn out well for the girl in a lot of ways.
Love the end of the first one, though. She just slaps him.
Yeah.
Get it, girl.
Lum is in chat. Lum
Lum
Mayasha.
from Manga Mavericks?
Yes.
Hello!
They picked this as the favorite underrated manga for San Diego Comic-Con Best and Worst Manga panel last year, but they weren't able to talk about it because the fire alarm went off. I do remember hearing about that.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, that's a big bummer.
That stinks.
I assume it wasn't a real fire and everything was okay. That will be the silver lining for that story.
Was it a smoke machine someone left off too long going in the background?
Yeah, maybe.
This is a reference to something.
This was oh god, was it like a League of Heels thing years
Oh,
ago
this is
at
a PAX. Yeah, the video game wrestling. I remember about that. Okay, that's a very specific reference that no one listening is probably gonna get.
Well, they
Deep
should,
cuts.
League of Heels. I think they have them up on YouTube. Look up that one. Look up the one where someone broke someone else's ribs.
Didn't Dan Riker do it like elbow drop on somebody too hard? I think
yes.
that's what it was.
I think-
Sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, didn't Alex Navarro dropkick someone as well?
Probably. If you're interested in this random stuff, go look up League of Heels. It's some entertaining stuff.
These clowns.
All these video game journalists making their own wrestling.
All I'm saying is, I'd be more likely to show up for a panel if people were bottling each other.
Bottling? As in smashing bottles on each other?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fake
Even if
bottles.
they sugar glass.
Fake bottles. Yeah,
All right,
sugar glass.
Let's get back to the manga. Yeah, Dar, why don't you talk next about your thoughts on Not All Girls Are Stupid? Did you read Pop Life?
Yeah. I read volume 1. I don't remember for volume 2.
Yeah, we read one for the podcast. I think
Yeah.
Morgana, you and I finished volume 2.
I have not. I don't think I did end up reading volume 2. We have it, I think, stashed away, but we haven't read it yet.
I've read volume 2. I really, really like Pop Life. Sorry, Dar, go ahead.
Yeah. I really enjoyed seeing kind of like an edgier story, from Minamikuta because they did really great work in Pop Life, and Pop Life dealt with pretty real and serious circumstances with relationships and stuff like that, and bringing up kids, and the friendship between the two women in that was like really, really special. But unless volume 2 goes off the rails and has like some like butt fucking or like some other crazy shit,
We're falling in love with the same man.
that
It does not.
okay, I was gonna say like wasn't that my fear? I remember saying something when I first read Pop Life, like I was expecting something to happen. Well, like why aren't they after the same man or something? Because I had like drama brain when I was reading it, and I was like, oh, this is not
You're
that kind of
just so
book.
used to it from the other stuff that we read.
Yeah, it's like it's not that kind of book. It's a very good and pure book, but I really like seeing their Minamikuta's kind of like more adult, more kind of like I guess you could say sketchier situations with sex and unsatisfied lives, unsatisfied love and romance and sex life, and kind of like weird wishy-washy feelings people might have, and these were pretty they're pretty short stories, so they really just felt kind of like a snapshot, a very realistic snapshot of like a place and time of a woman's life. I'm not a woman, so I can't speak with any authority to it, but it just had like an air of authenticity that like, yes, this does feel like what this woman might have felt like or done in this situation, and then with situations where like they have to deal with men who don't satisfy them in bed, and the ways they kind of internalize that or deal with that. In one situation, she let it slip and it became gossip, and it was like kind of like an awkward, dramatic situation. But in another situation, she just kind of deals with it. She doesn't seemingly hold against the man. She wants to be with the man. She still feels good being with the man. Um, but it is a point of something that is clear in her mind that he always finishes early, and she never quite gets to like actually finish. Um, so these sort of details that were usually spared in uh, books for and by guys is very vivid here. And yeah, I liked it. I really liked the um we read a lot of anthologies here, and I think Seamus always says that like a good anthology is just like if you like most of the stories in it, you could deal with the other bad ones. But in this one, I think they're all just consistently really good quick snapshots. And I like the ones as well that had like a sequel to, which was the high school lesbians and the pregnancy one.
Yes.
And was there any other one that had an appendage to it? I don't remember. I think it was just those two. Everything else was just like quick.
Well, the one longer story is the day I broke up with my lover. It's about the girl who was. It starts with her breaking up with like the man she was seeing because he had a family, and then she goes back to the other man.
Yes.
Who at first seems like very nice, but then.
Yeah, so that was a longer one chapter thing. Because,
yeah.
Because it was one chapter, it fooled me to thinking it was like the same length as the other ones. That maybe that tells you kind of like how my reading comprehension is, where it's just like you can fool me to reading it as long as it's one chapter. But yeah, that one, the details on that one were also just kind of like, sad and heartbreaking, where she's kind of trapped between these two guys that she doesn't really want one, but the other one also isn't great for her. And she's bouncing between them. Big sad.
The last story, School Days, is also a little long too. That's about the girl who she moves to a new school and gets picked on by a boy. It ends with her having sex with him. Even though there was no real good reason to have sex with him, she just did.
There's no good reason not to.
Yeah, that's what she said.
That comes up a lot.
Hey, they were hanging out together, they got on well.
Time passed.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? What's the worst that can happen?
Slow.
I mean, pregnancy, other stuff.
That's why you just stick to having sex with your friends of the same sex.
Yeah, it's an option.
It's very true. All right, I've been saving Morgana for last. I figured you would have probably the most to say about this.
Yeah, I loved it. That was great. This is very much my shit. Like I said, there's a whole bunch of like Jose manga of the time that I want you guys to read now, but I don't think any of it's either even available in English anymore or available digitally, for sure. I also really like the high school lesbians. They're fun. They're messy. Like their relationship is not messy, but like the whole like being naughty lesbians in high school is an issue, you know. I really and to nobody's surprise, I really like the pregnant mangaka story. I was kind of wondering if it was partially autobiographical. At the end, Minami Kyuta does say that they, I think, have been like divorced twice and married 3 times and have like a bunch of kids. This is the thing that I found the most fascinating was, the pregnant person in the story. She's like 8-9 months along and she goes and gets hammered.
Yep.
She goes and gets drunk. And I want to, right now in the United States, when you get pregnant, you are told absolutely no alcohol ever, ever, ever. This is a United States specific thing. Other parts of the world are a little bit more lax, but I think that's because they expect that you will not drink to excess. So, like, if you have a glass of wine with dinner, whatever, fine, and especially once you're down, she's in the 3rd trimester at this point. Once you're that far along, there's probably not a whole lot that's gonna, like, really mess up your kid at that point. Like, they're coming, you'll be fine. But there's just, like, the part of my brain that's like, "You're not supposed to get drunk while you're pregnant."
It feels taboo.
It does, and I was also sitting there like, I can't imagine being drunk and pregnant. Like, being pregnant feels terrible, and being drunk feels terrible. It's, like, extra terrible. Ugh, but that was a really cute, fun story. I liked reading about her, like, being in labor and all the things that she, like, was not expecting, or, like, she's like, "I didn't bother going to birth classes because, I don't know, I just wanted to, like, wing it," and I'm like, "You idiot." I mean, yes, to a certain degree, your body knows what they're doing, but it's so fascinating to me always to read about labor and delivery in other parts of the world and in other points in time, because for me, it was like, I went to the hospital and I knew what to expect and I knew what my choices were and I was super informed, partially because of who I am as a person and partially because the hospital kind of tried to make sure that I knew what was happening. But yeah, I found that kind of fun, just like as somebody who has had children, and it's like I can relate to some of this, and some of it I'm just like, what the hell are you even thinking, girl?
So, Morgana, I'm flipping through these 2 chapters, both called Preggers. It makes me feel like the first story is less autobiographical. That's the one where they take a day trip to Osaka. I guess not a day trip. They take a trip to Osaka
Yeah.
and go eat, and she has a drink, and she thinks about her clinic with a creepy dude that talks down to her. The second story, which is about the actual pregnancy, the art style is very different. And I
Yeah.
wonder if that one is actually, like, more
Pulled from life. I mean, it's
Yeah.
very specific, right? Like, these are very specific. Every single birth is different. Every single experience giving birth is different. My experience with my 2 different children was different. So the amount of detail and the, like, kind of tone that it was told in really felt non-fictional. It felt
Yeah,
like I was
yes.
reading, it felt like Nagata Kabi's work, or like, I Don't Know How to Give Birth. Yeah, I think you read that one, Dakazu.
Mhm.
So yeah, that one in particular definitely felt like real, very real. But yeah, I love hearing Darfox's take on how these seem like more real circumstances that might occur, because I think this is the key difference between, at least in a certain point of time, shoujo manga and josei manga. The manga that's sold to young and teenage girls, and the manga that is intended for older, more jaded women. Because I think that at some point in girlhood or womanhood, there the fantasies kind of end, and that's like the shoujo manga stuff. There's a lot of fantasy there, and it kind of flips into this, like, jaded kind of like, man, being a woman is kind of rough, actually. That realization marks, like, the, I don't know, journey into adulthood. I love josei manga like this. And I'm not like a person who's really into, like, high drama, as we've discussed. I don't know that I don't need to have a whole lot of sex in my manga or anything like that, but there's something about these stories that, because they're focused on women's perspectives and women's desires and, lack of fulfillment, like, it's not really about sex. The sex is there, but it's a bigger conversation than that. It's more like, I don't know, like, being a woman in this time in this space, you kind of have to, yeah, put up with a whole lot, or just, kind of go with the flow with, so that you get something close to what you want, even if it's not exactly what you want. There's a lot of compromise, I think, or is believed that there's a lot of compromise when you're a woman in order to get, certain things.
So Morgana, I was trying to think of like what the connecting theme of all these stories here were. And when I was doing research and looking it up, I was looking at the a Japanese site with a synopsis there, and it said this is a collection of stories about women who are more honest with their feelings. And I kind of like that.
Yeah. Well, and even the title, "Not All Women Are Stupid," it kind of implies that, like,
Some women are.
well, no, I was gonna say that I think that there is a perception that women, and women like these ones, just, in these stories, who sleep with dudes they shouldn't sleep with, who get into trouble, who get pregnant, whatever. People think they're stupid. People think they're making these mistakes, but yeah, maybe they're just being more honest. Maybe they're just being more themselves, and it's not that they're stupid, it's that they are making choices. I don't know, like, I think a lot of, um I think about this a lot in terms of, there's conversations that are had a lot about things teenage girls like, and how people love to shit on teenage girls. Same idea, like, why is this a problem just because, so and so has done it, or this kind of person has done it, or said it, or liked it. There's a lot of, um I think by saying not all girls are stupid, it's really kind of pushing this idea, like, just because you don't understand why these choices were made doesn't mean they're not made for a reason, or, it's not stupidity that makes these choices, it's circumstance. Maybe sometimes it's being dumb and not thinking about it, like, not thinking about the consequences, but there are, many mitigating factors.
I like that about these stories, Morgana. Like that first story where she the girl's having sex with a guy, and he's like, "Can I tie you up?" And then she asks, "Do you do this with your regular girlfriend?" He's like, "No way, I would never do that." And she's like, "Fucking untie me, you idiot." Or Darfox, you mentioned the one about the girl who accidentally spread the rumor about the guy being quick. The guy chases her down. He's like, I broke up with my girlfriend so I could be with you. She's like, "Are you stupid?" It's great.
And they got back together at the end.
Well, yeah, the guy who broke up.
Yeah, and then the guy broke up with her and married his girlfriend 3 years later.
Yeah, that punchline. There are some things in this book that reads kind of like of the times that it was written. I would say like the late 90s. Just some aspects about like things that are I felt like they were treated very casually, which would not be okay now. Stuff like the stalker story.
Yeah, yeah.
The guy who's like stalking her and won't leave her alone. And so she's like, "Will you go away if I have sex with you?" And then she like ends up whacking him with a lamp and choking him out. It's like, oh shit, murder. But it didn't turn out that he was murdered. And yet he still showed up at her place of work after that. And she's just like, he's resilient, I'll give him that.
It's so funny. Like, yes, it's definitely very much of a time, because I think now people be like, you're in trouble, girl." But there is a certain kind of comedic aspect, or it's making light of something that I think a lot of women deal with, which is like, man, this dude is like persistent, right? Like, this is an extreme where he's stalked, but like, women deal with this shit all the time. Dudes who like don't know how to, even if they're not like romantically interested, they just don't know how to stop like talking to you, or like, I used to have customers like this who would come in and want to talk to me specifically. Even when I talked about having a husband, even when this and that, that didn't bother them. They weren't interested in me that way. They found somebody they could, like, latch on to, and they would not give up. Women, I think, deal with this, especially in service jobs. Like, I think she's a waitress, right, at a cafe or something. And I worked retail. Like, this is something that we deal with all the time. And like, I used to tell one of my coworkers, like, oh no, I think, I'm gonna go in the back. Or like, I was on my lunch break one day and my manager at the time came back and she's like, oh, this dude is here, the one who talks to you all the time. Stay here. I will let him know you're not around. Like, because they just don't give up, man. Even if they're not dangerous, even if they don't mean anything by it, I don't think it's like, some people are obviously clearly dangerous men. But I think some people just don't really realize that they're like bothering women when they do this. There's kind of this cultural idea that women are here to listen to your problems, or just listen to your ideas, and it's like
that kind of behavior's just been normalized in like media, and I'm sorry, Morgan. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Oh, it's fine. It's something that it's in the past now, but I know that there are women who still have to deal with it, and it's like, so this particular chapter was a really fascinating one in that respect, because it's extreme, but pretty much every woman who's worked a service job has had to deal with this bullshit.
There's also this instance in which story was it? The day I broke up with my lover. Where at the beginning, the woman breaks up with like the guy, and she's like escaping into a taxi, and she's like, "He hit me, but I'm glad that's all he did."
Yeah, that's it kind of speaks to like the resilience that a lot of women have. Because I kind of feel like if a lot of guys got like slapped or hit in the face, they just would not be able to handle it. It would be like such a shit show. But it also just speaks to like the kind of societal expectations and
we put up with worse.
Yeah.
And she's a hostess, right? So she's probably put up with lots of nasty things.
Mm-hmm. I feel like if you wrote that kind of thing in like manga today, they'd make way more big of a deal out of it. It'd be a whole event, multiple chapters. Remember what happened? He slapped you?
I think
But
the fact
here
that
it's just
it
something that
isn't
just yeah.
it's I think part of the storytelling is that it isn't made a big deal of, or that character in that moment isn't making a big deal of it. But you as the reader are like, damn, it's like that, I guess.
Is that Dark Fox because we're reading this in 2024 though?
I mean, definitely, but also like I don't think anybody reading that in when was the story originally published? I don't think they
97.
96, 97, yeah, around that.
I don't think it would have been like I don't think they would have been like, well, yeah, of course, it's a toll you pay or whatever. They would also perceive it as a bad thing.
That story in general was very sad too. She ends up falling for the other man, Tomo.
She went from one bad man to the next bad man back to the first bad man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's see. I want to make sure we touch on every story, but I think we have. Oh wait, we didn't talk about Hikari-chan's lover. Gary-chan's the one who has a fiance, and she's dating a man who's married. Describes them as dry lovers.
That sounds so unpleasant.
Dry lover. Like in the physical sense of the comment.
Yeah, really,
I mean, all around.
really uncomfortable.
I don't think they're talking about physicality.
No, but I mean,
Are you sure though?
Can you imagine?
What would they be like if they were moist lovers?
at least more comfortable, probably.
In an emotional sense.
Kind of weepy, maybe. Lots of blubbering, crying after sex.
Messy emotions.
Yeah, that one was kind of interesting because it was like both of them, I feel, were like, yeah, the way they described themselves as dry lovers. It's like, if we both know this isn't really like going to going to last or be like a real permanent thing, but we're doing it anyway. Like they seem a bit more like clear-eyed about it compared to I think some of the other ones where they were kind of like, yeah, this isn't a good idea, but I'm kind of going to do it anyway, and we'll see. Here they were like, this isn't a good idea, but like I'm aware of it in a way where it's like not going to be like a big mess when this ends.
Drama free.
Friends with bennies, no strings.
That dry lovers. Forget about friends with benefits. Dry lovers. That's what.
God,
New Manga Mac t-shirt drop.
I hate
Dry
it.
Dry lovers.
I want to be your dry lover.
No.
Matt Hosh is gonna put that up as our quote on Starfruit Books under not all girls are stupid.
What's that thing like? The only real love is 2D love. The only real love is dry love.
Oh God.
Oh boy. Let's see. I guess Morgana and I talked about our favorite stories, but Dart, wait, did you say you had a favorite story here?
I don't know. Did I? I'm
I
not
can't
sh-
remember. While you were talking, I was stuffing Verona cookies down my mouth. I'll admit it, everybody, I've just been eating Verona cookies this entire time.
That's
I need to go back to
fair.
the store and get some more.
I don't know if I have a favorite story. I feel weird saying I liked it, but I did like the one about the girl bouncing back and forth between the two kind of bad men.
The day I broke up with my lover.
Yeah. That one was emotionally resounding.
It reminds you of Korra.
Maybe.
I was about to say, it reminds Star Fox of his dry lovers. He bounces back and forth between.
Well, I think the problem in that relationship is like that was not dry love. That was unfortunately very wet love.
A moist love.
Moist love. Overly moist love.
Too wet. Soggy.
This is gonna be new Manga Mech lore.
Soggy love.
When a relationship is really bad, or like, yeah, we're gonna just describing it as moist or dry.
Soggy love.
Arid.
So is the dry is the love you're looking for like perfectly balanced,
Temperate.
Yeah,
Temperate.
like not sopping, but also not like arid, like you said.
Well
Climate-
watered.
Climate neutral.
Well watered, yeah.
It's like when you got crops. Like you don't want no water, you don't want too much water. You know, you just the Goldilocks zone. Goldilocks love is what we're looking for.
Just right.
Very good. Seamus, did you have a favorite story here? Was it the dry lovers?
Maybe. I don't know. I just like that's actually like a very good term for their relationship. That one Well, I say I like the last one. I don't know. The last one just had the like very like kind of not really random. Random is what the word.
It was also a dry relationship. They weren't lovers.
Yes. I don't know. That's kind of a different one.
Because he confessed to her and she said no. Because she likes her friend from her old school. And then he starts calling her ugly. And then at the end, he accuses her of being a lesbo. So she slaps him and calls him an asshole. Then he gets kicked out of school. But then they hang out more because she starts skipping school. And then they have the sex.
I'm trying to think out of the rest of them. Is there anyone in particular? Yeah, no, I think I'll go with those two. I'd like to pick two.
I did like the Pregger story a lot. Because I do like my nonfiction.
Did we mention that even the art's different in that one? It does feel
Yeah.
quite different. Yeah.
Were you stuffing Verona cookies in your mouth, Dark Fox? I went into that.
No, I just have ADHD.
Okay. Sorry.
Fair.
What's interesting to me is like this is such a different work than Pop Life. Dark Fox, you
So
mentioned
different.
Pop Life is like without the drama, and this is almost all about drama.
This is life as it is. Pop life is maybe life as you'd want it to be.
That's a good way of putting it, Seamus.
Or this is life when you're just like, maybe this whole like sex and romantic love thing, fuck it. Maybe I'm better off just not like trying to go down this anymore and just try and come to like a more
Dry relationship, if you will.
I don't know. Is that quite the right word? Like from Pop Life, it was more just like a very much like, right, what do I actually need here, really? And it's like, you know what? Don't need sex. I just need like someone to like have a house with and take care of kids with, and
I need a co-parent.
yes, exactly.
Did you all read the afterword by Miyamikuta? the end.
Yes.
Yes.
I like the one about the Latin-looking woman on
With
the
sagging boobs.
the saggy tits on the album cover, and how Miyamikuta themselves hopes to have sagging breasts someday.
It's such a refreshing perspective. I feel like everybody's like, nip, tuck, lift and separate, perky, perky. And after you've had kids, and it seems like Minami Kuta's had quite a few, your chances are very slim without medical intervention.
You were reading too much Berserk out here.
I was just gonna
For
say
real.
all those perky little tits from Berserk.
Tiny, perky, like A cup, maybe a B cup. Which, to be fair, in some ways is preferable to the like size X titties in some manga, but there's also
One Piece, we're looking at you. We're looking at you, Eiichiro Oda.
there's also a certain amount of like, okay, well, I looked like that when I was a literal teenager. Never again.
I have to say, I really enjoyed Not All Girls Are Stupid. I figured I would.
I was gonna say, was there any doubt in your mind?
I mean, I knew it was going to be a different type of book than Pop Life, and I love Pop Life. So when we started when it starts off like very saucy at the beginning, like straight up sex, I'm like, But yeah.
The one thing it was missing was someone setting themselves on fire, trying to set someone else on fire.
Not every book can be Mirror's Edge, Seamus.
No, I guess not.
I'm so sorry. I figured Seamus would like this because I was thinking this has, Kyoko Kazaki, Mirror's Edge.
River's Edge.
River's Edge.
A lot of parkour going on in here.
Mirror's Edge is a video game, sorry. But yeah, Dar. You have some final thoughts you want to give? I feel like we're winding down. Unless there's something else I forgot to mention.
Final thoughts. I don't know. I think this is the kind of book that I feel like I learn something when I read it. Some culture here.
Learned about dry love.
Yeah.
God. What have we done?
Put this. I read this and I didn't even think about it. I was only rereading. I was like, oh, that's a good line.
Morgana, final thoughts.
This was great. Thank you, Starfruit. Thank you, Matt, for putting this out there. I want more of this shit. Once again, there was stuff like this once upon a time. Tokyo Pop once upon a time did a bunch of Erika Sakurazawa, which I don't think any of her stuff is available in English right now. It was very similar in tone to this. We can and should read some more Kyoko Kazaki, I think. I want to get you guys reading some jaded women work. Some more, I should say.
Keep it coming. I'll gladly read it.
Yeah, it's really gratifying that you guys all seem to enjoy stuff like this because I love this and there's part of me that can't help but feeling, well, I like this because I'm an adult woman. Like, obviously, this is I'm the demographic this is for, but it's also nice to like, I'm very skeptical of the idea that certain books are for inherently only one kind of person, right?
I like it and I'm an old man.
Exactly. So yeah, I think everybody should read this, and I think we should all make a point to read books from perspectives different from our own. But also mostly read more Jose, please, everybody.
Yeah, final thoughts from you, Seamus?
I don't know. I really liked it. Like, right kind of like messiness, but like not to the point of like melodramatic. Like, come on, no.
But what if it had murder? You would have liked it even more.
It almost did.
It was almost murder, yeah.
Probably would have depended on the context of the murder.
Fair enough. Mina Mikuta has a new manga coming out next week, I think, or at the end of the month, called Ball and Chain. I want to read it. It's following the lives of a housewife who suspects her husband is cheating on her.
The old ball and chain, eh?
And also a non-binary person who is about to be married and might be having second thoughts about that relationship as well.
My house says
see, Matt knows. Matt knows. I wanna check this out. I'll probably report back in a couple weeks after I read it. It's in a web magazine and they're printing it. Mikuta hopes that it'll run 4 volumes long. That's very cool, yeah. I want to check that out, so I'll definitely be talking about that in the future. Also, Matt said, great review, guys. So good on us.
Thanks, Matt.
We got thumbs up from Matt Hosh of Starfruit Books.
Oh, well, he did pay for it.
Don't say that.
We waited for the check to clear before we hit, record.
We did not. We enjoy books put out from Starfruit Books. Matt Hosh is a friend of ours.
Yeah, of course, Sakazu. Don't worry. I've spent the money subscribing to Wrestling Observer there again for a year.
Don't do this. Some rando is gonna hear that on this podcast and be like, Manga Machinations in the pocket of Starfruit Books.
Money hats. All these money hats.
Yeah, we're really rolling in it. I mean,
Cashing our mad checks from Starfruit. It's not true. All right. And with that, let us wrap up this. See, Tyler's in chat. Oh, you're calling us sellouts. Look what we've wrought.
Questionable young men.
To be fair, the sellouts will be when I'm on here to saying how great like Naruto is. Then you're just like clearly big manga or like got to him.
Viz bought Seamus out. Seamus, you're like, that Shonen Battle manga thing? I was wrong.
Ever since I said for the last 10 years, I have seen the light. This is my come to Jesus moments.
How much would they have to pay you though? What does it cost to buy Seamus's?
We'll talk about this off air.
I think the problem was I don't know, like, is it really worth their while?
Fair, yeah.
Hey, endorsement from Seamus is a lot. We've said it's the strongest endorsement on this podcast.
Because he don't fuck around until he gets bought out.
No, I'll have my Dave Meltzer moment, and I don't know, I'll just like totally lose all sense of perspective. Oh, it's all great. It's all great.
All media is equally good and should be treated equally.
Oh boy.
Seamus's new mantra.
All right, everybody, let's wrap it up. I want to thank Darfox, Morgana, and Seamus for joining me and doing this episode. Shouts out to the people who were in the chat while we were recording. Chris from Canada, Matt Hosh from Starfruit Books, Lum Ramayasha from Manga Mavericks, go listen to them, and Tyler. If you enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe to us, review us, rate us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever else you can find us, places like Spotify. We're looking for more reviews and ratings, so please do that. A reminder that next week we are going to be reading comics. We'll be reading Godzilla, The Half-Century War, and Do a Power Bomb with guest Wyatt. Look forward to that. Check out our website, mangamachinations.com. Our Tumblr is mangamachinations.tumblr.com. If you want to support our podcast, buy us a coffee, head over to ko-fi.com/mangamac and buy us a coffee to support us. Currently, we are working toward our Land of the Lustrous retrospective goal. You can come talk to us on our Discord, discord.me/mangamac. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we do our live recordings most of the time. youtube.com/mangamactv. Send us emails over to mangamachinations@gmail.com. You can follow us on social media at Mangamac Podcast. That's Manga, M-A-C, Podcast. That's for things like Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, Twitter, everything else. And you can follow my social media at Docazoo, follow Darfox at Darfox8, follow Morgana at Morgana Relina, and follow Seamus at Seamus2389. Seamus is spelled without an H. Alright, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to us this week. Bye-bye.